Sheaf awoke in the dark, naked, alone. Painful cramps curled his wings and tail into knots. In the distance, a choir sang. He peeled himself from the cold, slick ground just enough to seek the hymn. Angels? From above, the sky came into being, the darkest blue and filled with stars. The heavens filled with golden light, chasing the dark away and painting the world as a dream. Shapes appeared in the glory. Heavenly beings draped in white gowns and golden sashes. They descended on feathered wings that did not flap, each one bearing a tome of God's knowledge. A rumble drew his eyes to the ground where an endless sea of cold oil covered the entire world. Arrows made of black crystal shot up from the earth. He froze, watching with crippling fright as they filled the sky. Somehow, the angels didn't seem to notice the danger. Onyx spears the length of a man punched holes in the heavenly creatures with the most awful sound that could be made. The sound of hope dying. As they fell, leaking starlight, their facts turned to lies and their singing turned to screams. Perfect bodies cracked against the ground, Godcraft, now just heaps of broken promises. The sounds they made as their bones shattered and their golden flesh spread along the floor made Shifa weep. Tears burned scars along his face as they fell. A moment later, the spoiled Celestials sank into the oily sea. Shifa screamed at those angels still aloft. "Flee! Flee! Protect yourselves!" But they could not hear him over the death of their sept. As the ground continued to spit death and the winged fell by the thousands, Shifa summoned flame to his hands, and tiny comets formed in his palms. Before he could release his holocaust, a drip of flame set the oily earth afire. A carpet of blazing blue spread until it swallowed all but the sky. The ground rumbled beneath him, a violent trembling that sought to knock him prone, and then a clawed hand broke free, large enough to crush a horse. He had made the world hell, and hell summons demons. Red-scaled monsters crawled up from the flames, tall, savage, and powerfully built. Howling beasts covered in horns and spikes, bulging muscles and empty eye sockets burned with infernal rage. "Come then!" the dragon boy yelled. "I'll kill all of you!" His rage, powerful enough to block out the pain of standing in waist-high flame, empowered him, and he roared in the face of his enemies. As thunder fell from his lips, his teeth, one after the other, fell from his mouth. There was no pain, no cause. His gums simply ceased to hold him. Confused and scared, he spit them out and forced his focus back on his enemies. Demons set their wicked flails spinning and charged. Shifa let the battle fury take him, and he was home. He didn't think. He couldn't see, feel, or smell. He wasn't a being fighting. He simply was fighting. His limbs moved in fluid arcs. Flame and thunder, light and pain erupted from his hands, and demons died. They died in groups, by the dozens, by the scores. For hours and hours on end, never-ending waves swelled, crashed, and broke against the dragon and his fury. Bodies piled until they couldn't stack, until they slid and collapsed, trapping his legs with their bulk. Soon he stood atop legions of corpses, slaughtering those forced to climb the dead to challenge him. Bleeding did not slow him, nor did the bones that broke under the crushing blows of the demon's flails. He would fight them to the last, to the death and beyond if it were possible. All of hell would know his wrath before the fall. Then, in the distance, beyond the endless multitude of howling hellspawn, he saw another army cleaving its way to his position. Chimera charged in a wedge formation, eradicating all that stood before them. Gala led the charge, burning like a beacon, splattering Devilcraft with a flail of his own. Kor and Rontar flanked him. Mem and Patience hovered above, raining damnation on their foes. "Chimera!" the dragon boy shouted. they answered. So thick was the demon horde it took them another hour to reach him. He turned to his oldest friend, offering Gala his hand, and froze at the sight. Beneath the flame that clung like armor, Gala had no flesh on his skull. Shifa recoiled in shock. He looked to the others, all dead, zombies, death spurned, and he knew terror. The Chimera fought their way to their lord and leader, and they betrayed him. As one, they piled upon him and drove him to the bottom of the mass grave.
We are, all of us, dead because of you!
Kahar's skull wailed in his face, his first and only love defiled because of him. Spears stabbed the sky, angels fell like rain, and demons screamed, clawing their way through the dead to find him. They reached him and grasped him, and they threw him down. When they hit the ground, dragon and demon tied in a knot, they did not stop. They sank through the oil-soaked stone, plunged into a world of viscous, black fluid, leaving only bubbles as proof they ever were. Shifa screamed. He screamed, and he screamed, and screamed.